Chinese animation finally overtaking Hollywood? It might be because Ne Zha 2, which is a Chinese animated film, just took the #1 spot for the highest grossing film ever in history for animation. It just overtook Inside Out 2 and made $2 billion at the box office. That's freaking nuts. $2 billion. Can you even comprehend that? I can't even comprehend that. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Ne Zha 2, why I thought it was so successful and so amazing, my opinion on it, and 3, how it's comparing to a lot of the stuff that's coming out of Hollywood right now. Please smash the like button, really helps us out, and subscribe if you're interested in the anime, manga, webtoon, gaming industry from an educational lens. I work in those industries, so I talk about them for a living. And yeah, let's get right into the video. So what are the things that I thought that Ne Zha 2 was so incredible for? The first thing I think about is how grandiose and how high concept it is. The video game industry is known for having a lot of high concept things. When I think about like Hollywood animation, a lot of the most popular, highest grossing animations that have ever come out are not super even like high concepts. You think about like The Lion King, Inside Out 2, like I think they're like unique, but they're not like, I didn't look at Inside Out 2 and I wasn't like, that is the most crazy thing I've ever seen. The Disney film that made me think that was probably Coco. When I saw the city, that was like pretty interesting in Coco, but when I saw Ne Zha 2, every single character and even the cities and even the fights, everything was so freaking crazy. There's one lady, she kind of reminds me of like Ursula from The Little Mermaid meets the witch from Snow White. She's kind of like an overweight like creature that's made of rocks, and she's talking to a mirror that's speaking back to her. The mirror has a face too, and she's asking about how beautiful she is. And she's like this mountain goddess pretty much, right? This is just an example, but Ne Zha beats the shit out of her. And then it turns out that's just like a part of her body. She is actually a whole physical mountain. That's like her entire body. And I was like, bro, what the frick is going on? When I'm talking about high concept, I'm talking about like they designed heaven, like this Jade City, absolutely insane. They had a beaver village of beavers that were like bandits that made soup and screamed and were actually like kind of cute. They had underwater city of dragons. Again, this is from Chinese mythology. Again, a lot of this is drawn from Chinese mythology, so maybe it's not built from scratch, but the only animation that I can recall that really took this much crazy design choices and daringness is really like Arcane from the Netflix League of Legends show. Arcane, again, Arcane is even more unique because it was all original, but Ne Zha 2 really took that level of high concept, and you know, everything was just such a beautiful spectacle to look at, which really takes me to my next thing. Like, you're looking at these things and it's really high concept. The hardest part is like when you have a really high concept character design is like, wow, you have to think about like, holy crap, I have to make that thing move. And the animation in this is so fluid and nice to look at. It's just like Ne Zha 1, the choreography is freaking insane. When I talk about the choreography, I thought about Ne Zha 1. I remember there's this one scene in the first movie where they're inside of a scroll, and there's two characters, there's like two different teams, and they're trying to fight each other to get this paintbrush that will let them leave the scroll, right? And even as I say that, that concept sounds freaking insane, right? And that's the type of like movie this is. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but at the same time, it is kind of like a serious shonen style story. And you know, one of the best fighting choreography animation scenes I've ever seen was actually in that first movie, where they're in one shot trying to get this paintbrush, and these two characters are just fighting each other and teaming up to like fight and get the paintbrush. And that same energy crossed over into a lot of the fights in this new movie. It was crazy. The 1v1s were super well choreographed. But even when I think about like the pure scale of everything that was happening in this movie versus the first movie, it was like Dragon Ball. Like, it was like Dragon Ball, but like 50 people are on screen fighting at the same time with Dragon Ball powers. Like, that's what it was like. It was actually bonkers and crazy. What I thought was even crazier is that Ne Zha 2, when you're choreographing any sort of fight scene, the hardest thing to do is like, how do you give all those characters screen time? How do you make certain characters relevant? Is it too cluttered? For some reason, when I was watching Ne Zha 2, it was way more than 7 characters. It was like 12 characters or like 1,000 characters all beating the shit out of each other at the same time. And they all have superpowers, and they're all like crazy, like Dragon Ball Z like level explosions and stuff. At the same time, they're all super high concept. You can see their earrings freaking dangling as they're moving and fighting each other. But for some reason, the way it was directed, I did not feel that like enormous clutter. I kind of felt like each fight was kind of self-contained and interesting, and it was just so well done. I was like, wow, They took a high concept thing, they made it move well, and I walked out of that just like in awe that it was even physically capable for a team to animate this. It was bonkers. From a visual standpoint, Ne Zha 2, that's like a 9 out of 10 for me. It's like, honestly, it was one of the craziest things to ever look at. Big scale, cities in the sky, a cauldron that can swallow entire continents, characters that are bigger than life, really high personality. And then when I think about the story too, the story of Ne Zha 2 was, I think, better than the first one. I think the first one was pretty strong, but the second one, it was pretty clear what their goals were in terms of like the main characters. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but there were a lot of different factions that were built up in this second movie, and there were a lot of different villains and a lot of different characters that were all established and built up. It seems like there is going to be another sequel after this one because they're building a franchise out of Ne Zha. But yeah, there was a whole lot of world building, a whole lot of story, and it's interesting because it felt like there was a lot of stuff that I was learning and being introduced to in terms of characters, new worlds, new all that stuff. But I didn't feel overwhelmed, which is usually the hard part. I felt like the things that they introduced, they actually dove in and described those things. Good example would be like the Heavenly Palace that they were like hanging out at. They took some good time to showcase all the characters, what was going on there, the different people that were, type of people that were living there. And then when they went down to describe like the dragon underwater like city, they showcased all the types of monsters and those types of characters that were down there. For something that was so high concept, how do you really make those different areas and parts of the world feel alive in such a short period of time? I feel like this movie actually was managed to do that. There was a lot of moving parts introduced and closed out, and I felt like the twists were really strong as well, and that the main character's motivations, not just the main character, but every character had its own motivation. A lot of it was revenge focused, a lot of it was justice focused, a lot of it was trying to break destiny, similar to the first movie. From the villain side, obviously the motivations of wanting to achieve cultivation and become more powerful. Actually, a lot of the characters were really eager to, achieve cultivation and become more powerful entities. On the flip side, become immortal for the sake of defying their destiny, right? That type of stuff. That was like the main character's goal. So if I think about like visual spectacle, 9 out of 10. If I think about story, like an 8. Like I'd give this whole thing like an 8.5. Again, I'm giving the visual a 9 out of 10. I don't even know what I would give a 10 because I'm trying to leave that open for the future. But honestly, I haven't seen anything crazy like Ne Zha 2 for a super long time. The only other time, again, that I've been this impressed with how visually crazy that was Arcane. And when I think about, a lot of the stuff that's coming out of Hollywood right now, I think that the animations that I see, a lot of them are like a 7. It's like the movie's like pretty good, but then the script is lacking. A good example would be like the Mario movie. I thought the Mario movie was fun. It was strong in terms of especially like visual spectacle. But then when it came down to the script, I was like, that's okay. And even when like things were choreographed in terms of fights and that kind of stuff, I was like, that's okay. But it was super fun. Again, like Mario, the movie was a fun movie. Inside Out 2, I thought was a fun movie. Again, I didn't walk away like super wowed. Like this is like the craziest thing that elevated it from the first movie. I think that if anything, I thought Inside Out 1 was better than Inside Out 2, honestly. It's really the flip-flop for Ne Zha 2. I think Ne Zha 2 takes Ne Zha 1 and just kind of like pushes it to the next level in terms of scale, in terms of story, in terms of character, everything. And I really think that that's what movies should be trying to do. Again, no shade to Hollywood at all. Hollywood's still pumping out big numbers. But, I think there's always this feeling about Chinese animation where it kind of feels like, oh, Chinese animation's cheap or something, right? But when I look at Chinese animation over the last like 5 years, I'm just like, bro, like they are freaking going crazy. The things that they are able to produce with their budgets are actually madly insane. And so I just want to say, no shade to Hollywood, but what China has achieved with Ne Zha 2, in my opinion, like deserves to put them on the map in terms of like strong participants in the animation industry. Obviously, there's a lot of other donghua like Link Click and stuff like that are kind of putting Chinese animation on the map, but at the same time, people when they think about animation only think about Hollywood for the movies and they think about Japan for the anime shows, right? But really, I think that the third category, which should be like really on par with the first two, is a lot of the Chinese animated films that are being produced. The films are really good. I think the shows in terms of animation quality, in my opinion, are really good, but the scripts are not that good. So that's a story for another time. Anyway, this is my thoughts on Ne Zha 2. Again, like one of the craziest things I've seen. I really recommend you guys go check it out. It's screening in limited theaters around the United States. So if you have the fortunate ability to go check it out, please do, or just watch the first one. The first one will rock your socks. videos. And yeah, I'm just a big fan of animation, and hopefully this pushes everyone in the industry to be like, yo, we should try and make crazier, bigger, and better things. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Drop a like for the YouTube algorithm, and I'll catch you guys on next week's video. Peace, peace, peace.